supine position. I'm setting timer for a minute. Let's start with right single hip flexion. So I'm taking the right thigh to hug rather than the shin, because I want that force of the arm to come directly onto that thigh bone, because the hip joint is between the thigh and the pelvis. And so if I pull on the shin, some of the force goes into the knee joint, which is not a bad thing, but right now I'm isolating the force more on the thigh itself, thigh to pelvis. So staying here, I'm also aware of the left leg. I'm not letting it collapse too much to the side. I'm not letting the chin go up, so the back of the skull, I keep it slightly lengthening away from the back of the neck without losing the cervical arch fully. I'm not trying to achieve anything here, just simply connecting to sensations. I apply the bandha practice, bandha not as in a contraction of pelvic floor, but bandha restraining the mind and the ahankara, not identifying, and instead just staying with the buddhi, the intellect, just connecting to sensations. I'm again setting timer for 30 seconds. I apologize for the delay here, because this timer is new. I'm usually doing this with the phone, so a bit of a fidgeting around. So this is just dynamic, just to make the passive flexibility come in a functional way. So here I'm just using the hip flexors to bring the thigh towards the front torso, closing the hip angle, not using the arms. So it's purely strength for the hip flexor. So I have this back problem, so I'm not really going into any full momentum based action, just being careful there. So again, this might take some time. I'm again taking the timer. Now this is to set up for the left leg. So it's a 1 minute, the thigh hug, feeling the left hip in that flexed position. And I also work on just the left foot, just moving the ankle joint in the different orientations. Again, simply to be with sensations and just connecting, and my discerning faculty to come more alive, just noticing things. If the mind and the identifying faculty, ahankara, is too active, I'll be continuously striving to kind of pull more, judge myself, etc. So just holding that back, bandha to those two faculties, and trying to get more of my buddhi to be in place. The forehead remains parallel to ceiling. Under the cervical spine, we maintain a slight arch, and so do under the lumbar spine, which you can't see here. So simply staying here, just breathing smooth through the nose. Now 30 seconds for the dynamic work. So I exhale as I take the thigh in, inhale as I take it forward, and you find a rhythm. So I think I'm going at a 1, 2, 3, exhale 1, 2, 3, inhale 1, 2, 3, that kind of rhythm. Okay, and now you are setting up for another position. This timer is set for a minute, and initially you can keep the left leg bent as you take the right leg to what we call in Manasa as Supta Marichi. So it's quite similar to the earlier pose, but the right knee is not going towards the front body, but towards the floor besides the right side body. And the knee is not as bent as before. It's a 90-degree flexion at the knee, and that lengthens the right hip extensors, which are the hamstrings and the glutes, a bit more. Just staying here. I'm careful that the foot doesn't collapse outward of the line of the knee, and neither does the heel go towards the buttock, or it doesn't come in front of the knee. So just simply staying there and connecting to sensations. No judgment. If it is difficult for you, keep the left leg bent. Just breathe. This is a variation where you can take the upper arm just across and pressing down on the back thigh. So now we are going to do this dynamic for 30 seconds. Now from here, you just bring it into that position and release. Again, 2, exhale, pull down, release. 3, exhale, gently guide down, release. 4, pull down, release. 5, pull down, release. So now we change sides for the left side. First the passive work, which means the hand and the arm will be assisting in the hip flexion, not directly the hip flexors. So it's the same position. My left side, I'm recovering from a back injury, so sometimes I might keep the right leg bent. At this point I feel okay, and so I'm keeping the right leg straight. So you have to do the pose appropriate for your body at this point of time. So just stay here, connect to different sensations, connect to breath, and stay. I use the opposite hand to grip at times. That is when I find the foot collapsing a bit outward, then the opposite hand grip makes sure it stays in control, and occasionally I do bend the other leg, as that helps the thigh movement a bit more. In the other grip, you can work on it, getting the left upper arm across and pressing the thigh down a little bit with the upper arm and the elbow. So release the leg, and now we go for the dynamic work, where the hip flexor itself will have to work to bring the thigh into position. Only at the last point, the hand assist. That is 1, exhale, release. Then 2, exhale, flex well. Bit of an assistance from the arm. 3, exhale, just work at it, release. 4, exhale, release. 5, exhale, release. Now we are going for 1 minute right leg hamstring work. So here, up to you. If you can catch the foot without a strap with the right upper back down, then you use it. Otherwise, use a strap. So I'm just making sure my right upper back, left upper back is evenly on the floor. And here, again, I'm just working a little bit on this right foot flexion and extension, or plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. This is because I'm currently having this back issue, and I'm exploring this concept of nerve flossing. So when the foot dorsiflexes, it's supposed to bring the sciatic nerve a little bit into tension, and when it plantar flexes, it slackens a bit. So as I alternate between these two ways, it kind of this concept of flossing of the sciatic nerve. So I'm just exploring this. The knee, keeping it straight like this, puts the sciatic nerve in a reasonable tension itself. So if you have problems there, you can keep the knee also slightly bent. So now we are going for the dynamic work. So release the right leg. So here you'll keep the right knee extended here you're just alternating between flexing the right knee and straightening. So hug the right thigh and just go through this. And again, I'm working on this flossing principle to give me some relief from my sciatic pain. So basically, as I bend the knee, I point the foot, and as I straighten the knee, I dorsiflex the foot. So this is opening up the hamstring as well as hopefully giving me some relief. And And also, though I say giving me relief, it's good to just work on it. If it's giving some movement to the nerve, it's good for you as well. Now for dynamic right leg raises, keep the right knee extended as you just lift the leg up. That's good hip flexion strength as well as quadricep strength. And the foot just changes from dorsiflexion to plantar flexion. So that's more for your buddhi or the discerning faculty to work as well. This is a 30-second work. And that is 30 seconds. So just rest. The timer is taking a little bit more time than usual to set up. Apologize for that. And now I don't know where the strap is, so this happens sometimes. Okay, finally got it. So now take the left knee towards the chest. And just staying here. So the left hip is the area where I'm having a lot of problems. So I don't make the movement as much as the other side. So, and also I keep the right leg bent as that brings some ease into this position. So staying here, I'm doing this alternating, pointing the foot up and pointing the foot down. At the same time, I'm keeping the left knee extended to give the hamstring some a chance to lengthen. But I do so not just by pulling pulling with the hands or so. I actively am engaging the front thigh muscle of the left leg, the quadriceps. That activates a muscular neural mechanism called the reciprocal inhibition. So just staying here, keep the left front thigh contracted, left hip flexor contracted. Now release the leg. It's 1 minute. So let's go for the left thigh hugged, the sciatic nerve flossing technique. So just there, straightening the left knee to a point I can. At the same time, trying to dorsiflex the foot. As I bend the knee, I plantar flex. So we're just doing this for 30 seconds, doing it for time. So that's 30 seconds. So put the leg down, and now we go for the straight leg hip flexion. This is good for strengthening the hip flexor, quadricep, and giving that length to hamstring as well in this dynamic method. So just raising and lowering the leg. This we are doing for time, 30 seconds. Okay, and that is 30 seconds, so just release. And now let's come up onto a hands and knees position. Hands and knees would mean in a general situation, knees under hips and hands under shoulders. But today we're not staying in hands and knees, so you're just going into a lunge fold position. So just setting the timer for a minute. So this is arranged in such a way that your right knee is over the right heel, left pelvis is over the left knee, and then you fold. You would not want to take the left knee further back because that lowers the hips, reducing the range of movement possible for hip flexion. So here you're putting the forearms down and staying, and if the forearms do not reach the floor, you put a pillow or something under the forearms. Just stay here. I'm staying here at the same time. I'm occasionally pushing the mat forward with my right foot and backward with my left knee, and at times I'm gripping the mat backward with my right heel and forward with my left knee. So though it is looking still, internally I'm working in different ways. But if you're new to this, simply stay for time. Connecting to different sensations rising from the right hip. And that is 1 minute. And 5 times dynamic. So same position, just going down and just coming up. So this is good to strengthen your lower back muscles as well as a little bit of your hip extensors. So we're doing it for 30 seconds, just going down and up. If you have back problems, you have to be very careful as you bend down and come up. You can even do a partial movement. Okay, that's 30 seconds. So now let's change side. First for the static 1 minute hold. So this I can't fold much because my left hip and that whole left line is affected. So I need the bolster, so I'm not folding as much as I did for the right side. So you might just put the forearms on the floor as you did for the right side. So just starting here, 1 minute hold. Just make sure your right pelvis is over the knee and the left knee over the left heel. Here I also make sure that the right foot is not passive and dull and collapsing. I keep it actively plantar flexed. And you might not see, occasionally I'm pushing the left heel forward and right knee backward, and occasionally I'm reversing the energy application. Just breathe. Be aware of different sensations, be aware of breath. So that's 1 minute. So slowly come up and setting up timer for 30 seconds to do the dynamic. So just going down and to your point and slowly coming up. So on the way up, don't excessively arch from your lower back. And this I'm removing the bolster not to reach the floor, but just to go a bit more deeper. Doing for time for 30 seconds. And that's 30 seconds. So now we're going to work on the hamstring. So it's the same setup, but instead of keeping the right leg bent, you will straighten it and left pelvis reasonably over the left knee and just staying here. So if you wish to, you can put a chair in front and put both arms on the chair, just inside of the right leg. You can do that and simply stay. Again, I'm not trying to achieve any particular depth or anything like that. So I still work on this, exploring this sciatic nerve flossing concept. So I keep working with the foot, and I'm not working too much on the depth in terms of head towards the shin or anything. Just simply staying with sensations. That is a 1 minute hold. Keep breathing. And now that is 1 minute. Let's do the dynamic version of this. So here you bend the leg, taking the pelvis forward, and you straighten the leg, taking the pelvis back. So 30 seconds. So straighten, fold, bend and slightly extend the lumbar. Then straighten, fold, bend, extend a bit, fold, bend, feel the back left hip flexor stretch a bit, fold, and fold, and that is 30 seconds. So let's change side. Left leg. So you do as as you would have done for the other side. Because of my back and hip issues, I'm using a support. So staying for time for 1 minute. I might still work with that foot on pointing and flexing. So staying for time, connect to different sensations rising from the back of the left thigh. Keep applying the bandha principle. Don't dislike or get bored. Stay curious and don't you have to apply bandha, control the ahankara, which is identifying process. Don't allow the I am tight, my hamstring is tight thoughts. Simply be with the discerning faculty, feel sensations, work with what you can, connect to breath, and stay. Okay, that's 1 minute. So now let's do 30 seconds. The dynamic work. So bend and slightly arch, and then extend the left knee, fold, bend, slightly arch, extend the left leg, fold, bend and arch, extend the knee and fold, bend the knee, arch, straighten the knee, fold, bend and arch, straighten the knee, fold, bend, and that is time. And that will do for your first day practice.